Welcome! A top secret project we're working on here, a little mysterious. As of the filming, it's very mysterious. It's a chair that came to me. It was a donation from a historian down south, specifically Rhode Island. It came to me as it was told to me it came out of a castle. And that's all I have. The historian dropped it off this morning. He is going to follow up with more information, but he's left me intrigued. Now, I do know the recent history. This chair came out of the Belcourt Mansion in Rhode Island, Newport, Rhode Island. So, evidently the first person who built this house was Oliver Belmont, a confirmed bachelor, and he built this mansion for himself and his horses so that he would vacation 4 or 5 weeks of the year down here along the shores of the Atlantic on the eastern seaboard. I'm really intrigued by this because I think this chair, this particular, it's called a throne chair or it's called a bishop's chair. This particular chair, I suspect, has a longer history than just the Belcourt Mansion. And I think my historian friend dropped me a little bit of hint when he said it came from a castle. Now, he did have a little bit of an accent, and I used my imagination. It sounded a little bit like a Transylvanian accent. I'm not sure. I'm not committing to anything, but wouldn't that be something if this came out of, for instance, Dracula's castle? But right now what I'm going to do is I'm really interested in going inside the chair to find out if we could find any evidence of how old it is or where it originally came from. So let's get moving. I mean, we'd like to have a little fun here at Upholstery at Broadway Upholstery School and Upholstery on Broadway, which is the parent of Broadway Upholstery. And so here we are. And so let's get going. So because this was a donation, and also this top cover is a very recent covering, and I think it was just made to make the place look spiffy. I mean, the whole place. It was not a good restoration. It looks good, but it wasn't made to. They had a sign saying "Do not sit on it," so that just goes to show you. It needs a lot of work. So I'm not going to be too careful taking this apart because there's no historical value at all. So the fringe is going to come off first, and usually fringes are tacked, or this one's tacked. Sometimes they are stapled or glued on. So once you get going with these, they come right off. So what I'm going to do with this video is I just want to get some history on this chair, some further history besides what I have. And I think the best way to do that is to go from the bottom to see what's going on inside the chair, see what we can find. We have found some pretty interesting things. You know, and you never know what's important for somebody from a historical standpoint. We did a Victorian chair. And we found a candy wrap, a Necco, I think it was a Necco candy wrap. But when I first looked at it, I said, oh, this doesn't mean anything. But sure enough, somebody contacted us. They saw it on YouTube. And somebody had very fond memories of the Necco candy factory in their neighborhood, the smells that reminded them of their childhood. So you never know what part of history or what piece of history is important to certain people. So maybe this will be important to some guy out in Transylvania. Who knows? So let's just get this off. Okay, I'm going to turn the chair up so that we can start looking inside of this, see what's going on. By the way, this has been wormed out on the bottom here. We're going to have to get this repaired. They're going to have to make a whole new section here. So that's also an indication of how old this is. Anything with worms seems like it's a little older. Now I see that they used an antique or a museum quality webbing on this, which is interesting because they have the right webbing, they have the right tacks, but they didn't have the skill or the knowledge because I see they folded the folds almost all the way out over the edge here. We wouldn't do that professionally, so I'm just going to tear this off. We cannot reuse any of this. Well, this is going to be interesting to see what's inside of here. Tell you, I'm just going to tear this off. So far, the materials that I'm taking off, I do not care about, and no historian would care about. They're new. This is a newer webbing, even though it's an antique-looking webbing. Okay, so I'm just going to cut these. My main goal here is I want to check the history of this chair out. Now, if I come across anything that I think is important, obviously I'm going to save it. I'm going to keep it. On older chairs like this, you literally upholster over the old. If it's original fabric on here or anything historical, we upholster over it. And we can check that out through video, through photographs. If the fabric if we find a fabric underneath here, which I hope we do, that would be interesting. So I could tell you that I'm going to get in your way for a minute and release all these other webbings. They have a piece of muslin that's just totally gone. That you know, because this was a donation, I'm going to save it anyhow. I'm just going to carefully try to peel it off. It is so old. I'm thinking that this is the original, but I'm wrong, because underneath that is a piece of a piece of cambric that probably was the original. And I'm just going to try to, just for now, save this. I'll decide what I want to do. Ooh, look at that. I think I see some fabric in here. The cambric, this cambric, oh my goodness, it's just so old. It's just coming right off. Getting down to the frame and the webbing. Now this is just what I would want to see. I see old webbing in here. This webbing here was an old repair. And they somehow, nope, this is the original webbing. This is the original webbing. And then underneath that is another piece of webbing. Now I'm a little mixed up here, because this is the newer webbing, this is the older webbing, this is the original webbing. This is really interesting, wow. And then the original burlap. So this is a horsehair seat, because I can feel it. Let me just get a little piece of the horsehair out for you. Horsehair seat, also an indication of how old this could be. So we're finding out things. We're finding out that I think this chair is from Europe, from what I can see. I'm looking for anything identifying pieces here at all that I can see. The top cover was done by an antique dealer in order to sell this piece of furniture, I'm sure of that, or to display it for sale. And just looking around here, see a knot hole there, really wide stock, very old piece of furniture. And I think I have the original fabric here, which is a damask, and it's a French damask. So there's another clue. This could be from France, a castle in France. So now let's pan down. I want to just cut the back open for you to see what we got here. This is interesting because this is a different style chair than I suspected. And this is an older style chair. Look at this. And I think what I'm looking at here could be an original velvet fabric for the outside back. But I want to show you something that's really kind of cool. Wow. So this is, I think this is the original. And it's a recessed back. And it looks like this at one time was all finished. And this outside back was actually put on before the inside back. And wow, this is really old. And they've changed the style and they upholstered the whole thing. I think because of the wood, the damage to the wood, they decided it was too much of a pain to restore it. So this is really interesting. So my next job now is I'm going to do a little bit more research on this and check out, maybe with my friend, the historian, that mysterious historian that came in today, hook up with him again and see if he's got more information about the origins of this. But meanwhile, I think what we're going to do is our own research. So hopefully the next time I see you, I'll have more information on this chair. It's kind of fun digging into this. A little bit different. It's a donation to me, and also to show you guys at YouTube the history of some of these pieces. It's kind of fun. So I encourage you to, if you like what you see and if you think it's fun, subscribe. We always want our subscription rate to go up. So we'll see you next time. Thanks.